Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, we will discuss about the local variables with Terraform. We'll continue our Visual Studio Code project for the demonstration. So here in our project, we have the variable declares here in our variables.tf file. I'll go to the main.tf file where we have the outputs. I'll simply cut down and use it in the output.tf file so that we have a clear understanding that all our outputs are here in the tf file, which is a separate tf file. Now you can have a locals variable defined. So we have a variables in Terraform, but we can also have a local variables Terraform, which can be declared as in locals keyword, which is ending with plural s, and then here you can define all your variable with any type. So the way you define your variable, you can define any variable. So let's say first name, I can define it like this, okay, and then I can define another variable last name, which is, let's say, she. I can also define a variable with the combination, which is a project config like this, which is a map type environment. I can say dev, and then cost center, I can define it like this, which says number, right? So this is how you define the locals or the local variables in Terraform. Now to use these locals, what you can do is you can use it like value, let's say value, which I'm going to use one of these variables. So I can use it like with the keyword local and then name of your first name variable. I can simply use another variable last name, right? So remember that to declare it, you have to use the locals, and then to use it, you have to use the local dot without s. So this is how you declare the variable. Now, what is the difference between the variables type and the locals type? So to understand the difference, the variables have the scope globally. What does it mean? That it can be accessed outside of your Terraform project boundaries. For example, when I'm going to call the Terraform plan or apply command, I can pass the value of these variables which are defined as the variable tag, whereas the variables which are defined with under the locals boundary or which are defined as a local variable, that cannot be, the value to those variables cannot be override while calling the Terraform command. So that's the difference. So the scope of these local variables remains local to the program, whereas the scope of the global variable or the variables remains globally, which is accessible from the Terraform command line as well. We'll see into the demonstration how do you access the variable defined as a variable from the Terraform command in future. Now, other thing which I missed to mention in my previous demonstration about the variable, which is with relates to the type. So let's say if I define a second variable which is of type bool. So now the default value I can give it like this. So Terraform, even though I can give the value like this, or I can give the value like this. So Terraform accepts the value or explicitly converts the type based on the value which you have given. So as we have defined the boolean type variable, so it will automatically convert this text true into a type boolean true. Similarly, if I have a number variable and if I define the, or if I give the value of that number as like this, it will explicitly convert into a number type, so I will not get any error as well, which is cool feature with Terraform. I hope this gives you some idea of how to use the locals in your Terraform. Now the other question is how many these local blocks I can define in my program. So the answer is you can define any number of local blocks in your Terraform files. Let's say if I have a first.tf file, then again I can define the local variable like this. But of course I cannot define the same variable inside the local block, because when the Terraform will work, Terraform will compile all the Terraform files, and it will evaluate all the local blocks which are available inside these files, and it will convert a single local block which will have the all the variable values. So it means that my local, though I can define multiple number of local blocks, but when it comes to defining the variables inside those local blocks, I cannot have a duplicate variable names on these local blocks. For example, if I define a local blocks like this, okay, and even though if it has a different name, let's say John, and now if I try to run this program, as you can see that it says that the first name is declared multiple times, so there is a duplicate local variable definition. Whereas if I define some other values here, let's stand something like this, it should work now because we don't have any duplicate values. Now what does it mean? That I can define multiple local values block, something like this, tier, because it might possible when you are running a large Terraform program, you might require to declare the variables on just on top of your resource block just for the readability perspective. So it might possible that you might want to create multiple local blocks, but you have to remember that those locals are not duplicating with the other local values which are defined within the same folder structure. I hope it makes sense and gives some idea about defining the local blocks.